Joe, Bo Atkinson has transferred to Ohio State. It's funny, we just got done talking about Ohio State, been doing our first real deep dive on them. We talked about defensive line a lot in that segment. If you're listening to us now, you hadn't seen it, go over there and listen. But Beau Atkinson from North Carolina going to Ohio State, your thoughts?
This pickup can end up being one of the most underrated pickups through the entire offseason. By the way, Alex was pointing out, it's not official just yet. It is predicted that he is going to end up at Ohio State, but it seems like things are aggressively trending in that direction because they really need Beau Atkinson. He's got a huge build, 6'6", 265. He's one of those guys that doesn't look like he's 265. He just carries his weight super, super well and was really productive this past year for UNC. Now, a lot of his sack production came against awful Florida State, but the plays that he made against Florida State were really eye-popping to me when I put that game on and I watched a little bit of the All-22. He has great pickup speed, Blake. He's a guy that plays with great physicality. He's one of those dudes that just has an endless motor. And I think knowing the defensive line edge development over the last couple of years within this Ohio State program under Ryan Day, I feel pretty good knowing that a traitsy player like Beau Atkinson is going to get developed and by the start of the season could turn into a really quality edge rusher for this team.
Look, had a lot of production last year. He had 7.5 sacks, 12 tackles for loss. I know a lot of people think he's extremely athletic. Look, I will say this, okay? I do always wonder, stay with me here.
Okay.
I do always wonder a guy that has a lot of production in one specific area and then not a lot of production elsewhere. Let me tell you what I mean. When you're getting that many sacks, are you a specific pass rush specialist, right? Like, for an example, when you see a lot of guys that are dual guys that can do both, you'll see a very high number of tackles, but then you'll also see those tackles for loss and then sacks. As an example, when you have a sack in college football, it also goes down for you as a tackle for loss. So it's not as if those tackles for loss, the 12, 7.5 of them came on those sack production plays. My question initially was, how does he do against the run in a conference, quite frankly, that ran the football? I mean, Joe, Clemson ran all over. I mean, they ran the football. Louisville. I do wonder about that. I don't know. I have not watched him enough to know enough about his run game defense. What I would say, though, is in the just quick things I saw in reference to his highlights, he is extremely athletic now. I mean, he will get after your ass. This is the kind of athlete that you see at Ohio State for what it's worth. If he does end up there, since it's not completely official, I mean, it's just another athletic edge that they have. I mean, they always have them. I feel like they just got rid of two because they graduated. They're getting another. I mean, he is that athletic. I will say this. I need to watch more about him in the run game. Again, when you see those high productive guys that can do both, it's not just hit or miss. Is he just a pass rush specialist guy, or is he someone that can defend the run? Or is he somebody that you're going to rotate in there? Now, you go in North Carolina and you look at some of this, and I looked this up today. He's on third downs like 97% of the time. The other two downs, he's not necessarily in there. That's per Pro Football Focus. Don't take that as a Blake Ruffino stat. But when I look at it here, I just asked the question. It's very interesting to me. Now, you're also going to a league and conference. Joe, it's not like the Big Ten's tossing the pillow around a lot, right? Like, I mean, it's not – I wonder. However, it is a massive pickup if he goes there. I'm not trying to degrade that at all. I'm just trying to see what's going on with him. But he's very athletic.
Well, the stat that you just threw in there is interesting. I didn't have that context when I watched him. He was coming mostly on the field in passing situations, and they had him rushing as an interior rusher. So they had him coming he was going after guards and centers.
Right.
He didn't have a ton of reps where he was – well, he did have reps against tackles, but they were trying to bring him in sub packages as a sub package rusher.
He's not going to Ohio State at 255 to go in the interior, though.
Right. So he's the reason why I highlight this and talked about this as a really underrated pickup is that I think last year for UNC, he didn't get on the field as much as he should have. And I think that Atkinson was smart enough to know that if he wasn't getting on the field enough early at UNC or whatever was happening during the spring under Belichick, that he was better off jumping ship and going somewhere that does badly need him. And Ohio State does need him. They're losing 2 of their pass rushers, Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimolau. I think that he could be more productive and he's more athletic than Sawyer was. I know that Ohio State fans don't really necessarily agree with that. I think that there is a separation on how athletically gifted Sawyer was and how actually physically gifted he was. I think he's a little stiffer than people realize. I think Atkinson has a lot more pickup speed, and that was what made him dangerous. I would think, though, that for what we mentioned on Tuesday when we did our preview, they needed to go in the portal and get some bodies. They just needed to get some more defensive line bodies.
The only one they're after. I mean, Murad Watson, the Syracuse freshman defensive tackle, is someone they're also after, too. Joe, let me ask you.
Well, he's supposed to go to Texas, though. I don't think that they're going to end up with him.
I know, but it's not. It doesn't stop the fact. All right, stay with. It doesn't stop the fact that they are going to get Atkinson, and it doesn't stop the fact that they were after Watson. The point that let me ask you this question, and I know that it's not necessarily the segment that we're trying to do here, but just stay with me. Does it worry you that you have a team coming off a title that's got that many departures that they're in the spring portal? So this is how it looks like to me. You've gone through spring practice, then you've never seen Ohio State for players like this in the spring portal like that at a position that doesn't necessarily have the depth that it once did. Clearly, that's not a shot. It's just the truth. Does it worry you at all that they're trying to do that?
Well, no, because the way that they approached last season is they put all their eggs in one basket of like, hey, we need everybody to come back so we can make a charge towards winning a national title. And it worked. That worked. When you do that, you have a very short-sighted focus. So that short-sighted focus means that you lack depth for this upcoming season because now you're losing both those guys to the NFL. I would argue it would be a lot more problematic if they were complacent and after the spring portal opened, say we did the preview that we did in June. Say we did it in June and they didn't bring anybody in. That to me would have been the problem. That would have been the issue if they didn't try to address it. I think being able to look in the mirror and understand like, hey, we need to just get one more guy. We need to get an extra rusher. We just need a little bit more depth. Maybe this Atkinson guy can start for us. At the very least, he'll be a rotational secondary rusher for us. That's all we need. I think that having that roster building approach is smart. And Elks is kind of laughing, making a comment about this in the chat. It was something that I saw on Twitter about the Syracuse kid that's ending up at Texas. People were complaining and going, why does Texas need this many defensive tackles? Why can't Ohio State have them? They don't need this kid. Good teams are always looking for ways to get better. They're just looking for more bodies. They're looking for more gifted athletes that they can develop.
Well, if you remember, hold on. Remember our Texas deep dive? It was not
they brought in a lot of guys in the portal, though.
Well, correct. But I'm talking about when we talked about their front seven, edge, elite, linebacker, elite. What did we say that would give them issues because of all the depth that they've lost there too? Was defensive tackle. That was the one question mark you and I kept bringing up. All right, sidebar. This is why Texas is back, because of NIL. They're going out there and just outspending everybody.
Well, and the funniest part about this, Elks also pointed out in the chat, Elks is on top of his shit today. Hiro Kanu, who's a very talented player, very underrated player that Notre Dame really wanted, he was on Ohio State's roster, very underrated kid who could have started this upcoming year. He went to Texas, and he's probably going to start for Texas this upcoming year. Or
that's my point. Like, they're just going out there and spending a shitload of money. That's why they're inning in the. I mean, good on them. I'm just calling it like I see it. But here's the truth. Ohio State fans, I love you. I picked you to win a national title before the season. Even when we were in there, we picked you to win it. The bottom line remains. When you have this much departure in any sport, it can come up on you, and we'll see, man. They got to be patient with Ryan Day early. They got to. And here's the thing, Joe. Guess who they got week 1?
Well, they got Texas.